Alagao sa India ang military recruitment drive ng Territorial Army.
Ating alamin kung bakit maraming taong dumagsa sa lugar mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki Flores, ito ang mata ng Agila International para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Biyernes.
Pilipinas, ikinukonsidera ang deployment ng US troops sa ibang features ng West Philippine Sea.
Pilipinas nakiisa sa historic five-way meeting.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un nagbanta ng nuclear war versus US.
International Criminal Court naglabas ng arrest warrant laban kay Israeli leader Netanyahu.
At 42 katao sa Pakistan patay sa pag-atake ng armadong grupo. Ikinukonsidera ng Pilipinas ang deployment ng US troops sa ibang bahagi ng West Philippine Sea o WPS.
Sinabi ni Philippine Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez na pinag-aaralan na ng Department of National Defense ang naturang hakbang. Ang planong deployment ng mga sundalong Amerikano sa WPS ay kasunod ng itinataga na US Task Force Ayungin. Binuo ang task force bilang bahagi ng Visiting Forces Agreement at ng Mutual Defense Treaty ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos. Pero nilinaw naman ni National Security Advisor Eduardo Año na ang mga sundalong Amerikano sa US Task Force ay hindi direktang makikiisa sa mga aktwal na misyon sa WPS.
Nangako ang mga defense chiefs ng Pilipinas, Estados Unidos, Australia, Japan at South Korea na kanilang isusulong ang international law and sovereignty sa Indo-Pacific region. Dinaluhan ni Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. ang makasaysayang five-way meeting sa sidelines ng ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus sa Laos. Sa pagpupulong, binigyan diin ng 5 defense chiefs ang kahalagahan ng multilateral cooperation bilang suporta sa regional security at stability. Layon po ng five-way meeting na mas paigtingin pa ang defense cooperation ng 5 bansa para sa susunod pang mga kolaborasyon. Noong buwan ng Setyembre, nagsagawa ng joint drills ang Pilipinas kasama ang US, Japan, Australia at New Zealand sa West Philippine Sea. Isang hakbang para ipakita ang kanilang matatag na commitment para isulong ang bukas at malayang Indo-Pacific.
Ipinagkaloob ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang 50 milyong pisong halaga ng tulong para sa mga nasalanta ng Super Typhoon Pepito sa Nueva Vizcaya. Sa seremonya sa Bambang Auditorium, namahagi rin si Pangulong Marcos ng mga food packs mula sa Department of Social Welfare and Development o DSWD na pinakinabangan ng nasa 1,000 individual na biktima ng kalamidad. Sa mensahe ng Pangulo, ipinangako nitong dodoblihin ng gobyerno ang pagbibigay ng tulong at rehabilitation sa mga komunidad na naapektuhan ng bagyo.
Hindi po kami titigil. Gagawin namin, hindi po mauubos ito. Huwag kayo mag-alala. Kahit na sunod-sunod yung bagyo, meron naman tayo, kagaya ng aking sinabi, meron naman tayong pagkukuhanan at tuloy-tuloy ang ating pag-produce nitong mga relief goods. At tuloy-tuloy naman, hanggat may request, ay tuloy-tuloy pa ang aming pagbigay.
Sumampa na sa higit 884 million pesos ang naitalang pinsala sa mga infrastruktura na iniwan ng mga bagyong Nika, Ophel at Pepito. Sa datos ng Department of Public Works and Highways o DPWH, naitala ang pinakamalaking pinsala sa flood control infrastructures na umabot sa higit 500 milyong piso. Sumunod ang mga road projects na umabot sa higit 300 at 79 na milyong piso, habang higit 14 na milyon naman ang sa tulay. Sa report ng DPWH, sa kasalukuyan ay bukas na sa mga motorista ang higit 50 national roads na apektado ng mga kalamidad.
Nais ni Senador Joel Villanueva at ng pito niyang kasama sa Senado na taasan ng 100 million pesos hanggang 150 million pesos ang 2025 budget ng Office of the Vice President o OVP. Anila ang pagdaragdag ng pondo sa OVP ay upang makatulong sa mga programang panlipunan ng ahensya. Git pa ng Senador, dapat ay tinitignan din kung mayroong mga empleyado sa OVP ang mawawalan ng trabaho dahil sa budget cut.
I am the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Labor. Every time merong mga kawani ng pamahalaan na maaapektuhan, lalo na matatanggal sa kanilang trabaho, dapat tinitignan nating mabuti yan. So, we'll look into it and hindi ko naman nakikita na 200 kaagad doon sa budget. But pag-aralan nating mabuti at masiguro natin.
Nauna ng pinagtibay ng Senate Finance Committee ang desisyon ng Kamara na ibaba sa 733 million pesos ang budget ng OVP mula sa orihinal na 2 billion pesos na iminungkahi sa National Expenditure Program na isinumite ng Executive Department sa Kongreso. Pero para kay Senator Villanueva at sa mga kasama niya, hindi makatarungan na mahigit kalahati ang tinapyas ng Kamara sa original budget ng OVP. Para solusyonan ang nasabing budget cut ay naghahain ng amyenda ang 8 senador na dagdagan ang pondo ng OVP para sa susunod na taon.
Hindi ko talaga makita na makatarungan sa isang opisina na itinuturing nating pangalawang pinakamataas na opisina ng pamahalaan. So yun lang po yung aking posisyon dito. I don't look at personalities, I don't look at whatever some politicians are looking at right now. I'm just after the office itself. The office of the Vice President deserve more.
Sa iba pa mga balita, kinumpirma ng Department of Health o DOH na may 4 na bagong kaso ng Mpox sa Pilipinas. Dahil dito ay sumampa na sa 13 ang official tally ng Mpox sa Calabarzon. Ayon sa DOH, ang mga bagong pasyente ay nasa edad na 24 hanggat 66 at sila ay nakararanas ng sintomas ng Mpox noong unang linggo ng Nobyembre. Lahat ng bagong pasyente ay nagpositibo sa clade 2 variant na milder form ng Mpox virus. 2 sa pasyente ay galing sa Rizal, habang ang 2 iba pa na isang lalaki at isang babae ay mula naman sa Laguna. Ang 3 lalaking pasyente ay naka-home isolation, samantalang ang babaeng pasyente ay na-ospital, subalit naka-recover na noong November 19. Tiniyak naman ng DOH na minomonitor nila ang sitwasyon ng Mpox sa Calabarzon.
Sinira ng Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency o PDEA ang halos 500 milyong pisong halaga ng shabu at marijuana sa Integrated Waste Management Incorporated sa Cavite. Nakumpiska ang mga droga mula sa iba't ibang anti-drug operations na isinagawa ng PDEA at iba pang ahensya ng pamahalaan. Sa pamamagitan ng thermal decomposition, tuluyang nawasak ang kabuuang 65,000 gramo ng shabu, 234,000 gramo ng marijuana at iba pang droga tulad ng liquid shabu. Dahil sa matinding init, lubos na na-decompose o nasira ang lahat ng kemikal na sangkap ng mga nasabing droga at hindi na magagamit muli para sa illegal na drug recycling ang mga ito.
Asahan ang dagdag presyo sa mga produktong petrolyo bago matapos ang buwan ng Nobyembre. Batay sa projection ng Department of Energy Oil Management Bureau, nasa 70 hanggang 90 sentimos ang posibleng dagdag presyo sa gasolina. 70 sentimos hanggang piso naman ang maaaring taas sa presyo ng kada litro ng diesel. At 60 hanggang 70 sentimos naman ang aasahang pagtaas sa presyo ng kada litro ng kerosene o gas.
Susunod, Kim Jong-un nagbanta ng nuclear war sa Estados Unidos.
Netanyahu binatikos ang paglabas ng isang ICC warrant of arrest para sa kanya.
At Matt Gaetz umatras sa nominasyon niya bilang U.S. Attorney General. Yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
ng Goodwill Season 4, off to the next adventure ang ating barkada.
Alam ko malaking pabot na i-manage mo tong resort na ito.
Wala akong problema yun.
Pero as usual, may parating na challenges ang Goodwill barkada.
Akala mo, pwede ka na lang makapasok dito sa resort namin at gawin ko anong gusto mo, no?
Madam, hindi ko gusto itong nangyayari.
Umalis muna kayong lahat para magawa ko tong trabaho ko. Walang makakaalis.
Dahil as of now, lahat ng tao na nandito ay suspect.
Alamin ang mga kapanapanabik na kaganapan sa 5th season ng Goodwill. Dito lang sa Net 25.
Sa Net 25.
Hinimok ng Foreign Ministry of Ukraine ang international community na tumugon kaagad sa paglulunsad ng Russia ng ICBM laban sa Kyiv. Leslie Gumarang po para sa balita.
Magchinelas kami.
Laban sa Ukraine.
Ми закликаємо світову спільноту і кожного лідера, кожну державу, які поважають статут ООН, уже зараз негайно реагувати на застосування використання Росією нового типу озброєння, явно підвищення, в принципі, рівня озброєння, яке використовується проти України, тобто не чекати там детальних експертних висновків, уже факт застосування нового типу озброєння він є. Закликаємо реагувати і показувати Росії неприйнятність таких дій.
Nananawagan din si Tiki sa mga kaalyado ng Kyiv na umaksyon at bigyan ng tulong militar ang Ukraine na haharang sa pag-atake ng Russia.
Ми потребуємо від партнерів і союзників конкретних дій для захисту життів, людських життів. А саме йдеться про, по-перше, зміцнення повітряного щита над Україною, надання Україні комплексів, які здатні перехоплювати такий тип ракет. Такі комплекси в світі є, і, відповідно, час передати їх Україні.
Kamakailan, sinabi ng Ukraine na nagpasabog ang Russia na tila isang Intercontinental Ballistic Missile o ICBM sa Dnipro City. Subalit dalawang Western officials ang nagsabi na sa paunang pagsusuri, hindi ICBM ito. Ani Tiki, kung makukumpirma na ICBM nga ito, tila tumulad na rin ang Russia sa North Korea.
Якщо підтвердиться використання саме міжконтинентальної балістичної ракети, то ми вважаємо, що можна буде констатувати, що путінська Росія деградувала до стану Північної Кореї, яка час від часу, як ви знаєте, достатньо регулярно запускає такі ракети такого типу, лякаючи своїх сусідів, лякаючи світ, залякуючи світ. Тобто можемо констатувати про деградацію Росії до стану Великої Північної.
Leslie Gumarang para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Ayon sa isang British analyst, hindi ikapapanalo ng Ukraine ang paggamit nito ng UK Storm Shadow cruise missiles at US attack MS laban sa Russia. Angel Milano para sa balita.
Hindi babaguhin ng long-range missiles ng US at UK ang takbo ng gyera para sa Ukraine. Ito ay ayon kay Russia Eurasia and Europe Programs Director ng Chatham House, James Nixie, noong Miyerkules.
Well, I don't think we should kid ourselves that this is a panacea, that this will win Ukraine the war. The reality is this is a little bit like incremental gains that you sometimes hear about in sport. Every little bit helps, but no single new innovation into the Ukrainian battlefield will do the trick. Although they are hoping it will do. They're hoping that it will break the Russian spine and that they will fold, collapse, and that will have a chain reaction back up into Moscow. That seems relatively unlikely, I have to say, but the Ukrainians are desperate and they will do all that they possibly can with however little that they have. But they are on borrowed time, and 2025 looks like being the crunch year, especially bearing in mind the new Donald Trump presidency, which will be transformational and not to Ukraine's favor by all accounts.
Ayon pa kay Nixie, desperado na ang Ukrainians kung kaya't gagawin nito ang lahat upang ipagtanggol ang mga sarili. Anya ang pinakahuling tulong na sandata ng kanluran na pinayagan nitong gamitin ng Ukraine sa Russia ay huli na.
This is too little and too late. Ukraine is on a losing trajectory, and this seems very much like a guilt trip on the part of the outgoing democratic administration, who know they have not done enough, who have been overly cautious, and their intention was always not for Ukraine to win the war, but just to keep them in the war. That does seem extraordinarily cruel, but their strategic objective was not to win, but to ensure that it doesn't conflagrate into a wider war and escalate into something global, and something they were involved in themselves.
Ayon sa mga ulat noong Miyerkules, nagpaputok ng sunod-sunod na British Storm Shadow cruise missiles ang Ukraine patungong Russia. Isang araw matapos nitong gamitin naman ang US ATACMS missiles. Samantala, sinabi ng Moscow na ang paggamit ng Ukraine sa Western weapons laban sa teritoryo ng Russia malayo sa border ay isang malaking eskalasyon. Ayon kay Nixie, may kalabuan kung ano ba talaga ang ibig sabihin ng Russia sa eskalasyon.
It's very hard to understand what an escalation might mean. Of course, that's what the Kremlin is screaming and shouting about. But the reality is that the Kremlin has already escalated to the maximum amount possible by attempting to destroy Ukraine. The next steps would be if Ukraine and the West by extension perhaps, or if the West and Ukraine by extension were to capitulate, then the Russians could escalate to the next country.
Ayon naman sa Kyiv, kailangan nitong ipagtanggol ang sarili sa pamamagitan ng pag-atake sa Russian rear bases na sumusuporta sa paglusob naman ng Moscow. Sumapit na ang laban ng Ukraine at Russia sa ika-1,000 araw ngayong linggo. Anjo Milano para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Inakusahan ni North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ang Estados Unidos ng pagpapalala ng tensyon sa pagitan ng Ukraine at Russia at nagbabala na posible itong humantong sa isang nuclear war. Sa isang pahayag, sinabi ni Kim na never before have the warring parties on the Korean Peninsula faced such a dangerous and acute confrontation that it could escalate into the most destructive thermonuclear war. Sa isang talumpati, sinabi ni Kim na ang Korean Peninsula ay nahaharap sa isang nuclear war dahil sa mga mapanirang polisiya ng Estados Unidos laban sa Pyongyang at mga kaalyado nito. Dahil po dito, nanawagan si Kim na palaguin palalo ang kanilang mga armas patungo sa tinatawag niyang ultra-modern technology para sa pagpapalakas ng defensive capability ng kanyang bansa. Idinagdag pa niya na nakipagnegosasyon ang kanyang gobyerno sa Washington, subalit patuloy pa rin ang agresyon mula rito.
Iniulat naman ng South Korea na nagbigay ang Russia ng anti-air missiles at air defenses sa North Korea kapalit ng pagpapadala ng mga sundalo upang suportahan ang Russia sa digmaan nito laban sa Ukraine. Sinabi ito ni South Korean National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik sa isang interview noong Biyernes nang tanungin siya kung anong maaaring nakuha ng Pyongyang mula sa pagpapadala ng mga sundalo. Dagdag pa niya, mukhang binigyan ng Russia ang North Korea ng iba pang mga military technology kasama na ang pagsuporta ng satellite programs nito. Tinanggihan ng Estados Unidos ang isang resolusyon ng United Nations Security Council para sa isang ceasefire sa Gaza. Nadismaya ang ilang UN ambassador sa aksyon ng Estados Unidos. Anila hinaharangan ng US ang pagbawakas ng giyera sa pagitan ng Israel at ng Hamas. Si Asti Sakmar para sa balita.
Bumoto ang konseho na may 15 miyembro ukol sa isang resolusyon na isinusulong ng 10 non-permanent members ng UN Security Council. Nananawagan ang mga ito ng agaran, walang kondisyon at permanenteng ceasefire na tatapos sa 13 buwang labanan ng Israel at Hamas. Hiwalay nitong iniutos ang pagpapakawala sa mga bihag. Estados Unidos lamang ang tumanggi sa resolusyon gamit ang veto power nito bilang permanent council member.
The result of the voting is as follows: 14 votes in favor, 1 vote against, 0 abstentions. the draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council.
Ayon kay Deputy U.S. Ambassador to the UN Robert Wood, pinaninindigan ng Washington na susuporta lang ito sa isang resolusyon na malinaw na isasaad ang pagpapakawala sa hostages bilang bahagi ng ceasefire.
We made clear throughout negotiations we could not support an unconditional ceasefire that failed to release the hostages. Because, as this Council has previously called for, a durable end to the war must come with the release of the hostages. This resolution abandoned that necessity, and for that reason, the United States could not support it.
Samantala, nagpahayag naman ng pagkadismaya ang ilang mga kinatawan ng konseho laban sa desisyon ng US. Ayon kay Chinese UN Ambassador Fu Kong, ang pagvivitong ito ng US ay katumbas ng pagtutulak ng mga taga-Gaza sa kadiliman at desperasyon.
美国独家使用否决权，粉碎了加沙民众活下去的一线生机，把他们进一步推向了黑暗和绝望之中。在周一安理会的辩论中，我曾说过，每一个时刻都会在历史上留下记录，都将面对历史的判决。
Ani Russian UN Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia, hinaharangan ng Amerika ang pagliligtas sa buhay ng mga naiipit sa krisis.
Мы могли сегодня потребовать, чтобы в Газе установилось немедленное, безусловное, постоянное прекращение огня, а также чтобы немедленно и без предусловий были освобождены все заложники. Выше понимания нормального человека тот факт, что Соединенные Штаты цинично стоят на пути принятия таких мер. Мер, которые могли бы спасти жизни в худшем гуманитарном кризисе в мире.
Inilarawan ni Palestinian Deputy UN Envoy Majed Bamia kung ano ang epekto ng kawalan ng ceasefire sa gitna ng labanan at ng lumalalang pagkagutom.
There is no right to mass killing of civilians. There is no right to starve an entire civilian population. There is no right to forcibly displace a people. And there is no right to annexation. This is what Israel is doing in Gaza. These are its war objectives. This is what the absence of a ceasefire is allowing it to continue doing.
Dagdag ni Bamia, hindi man tanging sagot ang ceasefire sa ganap na kapayapaan, ito pa rin anya ay ang unang hakbang.
This is even more true today. A ceasefire doesn't resolve everything. But it is the first step towards resolving anything. And what is the answer of those who are still unwilling now, after all this death and destruction, not to call for an unconditional ceasefire? Is it to accept that the killing should continue until we resolve everything while we watch that we are resolving nothing?
Samantala, kinontra naman ni Israeli UN Ambassador Danny Danon ang pagsang-ayon ng Council members sa resolusyon. Anya ang ceasefire resolution na inihain ng konseho ay daan ng karagdagang karahasan at kamatayan. Ayon pa kay Danon, tinatalikuran ng ceasefire ang natitira pang hostages ng Hamas sa Gaza.
Let me be clear. This is not a resolution for peace. It is a resolution for appeasement. It abandons the hostages, rewards Hamas, and emboldens those who believe that violence can achieve their aims. To the nations supporting this shameful text, how will you explain to the families of the 101 hostages, some of whom are citizens of Security Council members, that their loved ones are not worth demanding freedom as a condition for a ceasefire?
Ang resolusyon ay isinusulong ng 10 elected members: Algeria, Ecuador, Guyana, Japan, Malta, Mozambique, South Korea, Sierra Leone, Slovenia at Switzerland. Ashley Sakmar para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Ipinaaresto ng International Criminal Court o ICC sina Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, dati nitong defense chief at Hamas leader Ibrahim al-Masri. Ang warrant of arrest ay kaugnay sa umano'y war crimes at crimes against humanity kaugnay ng labanan sa Gaza. Ang report po mula kay Marjorie Quintos.
Sa desisyon ng ICC, sinabi ng mga hukom na may basehan sila na kailangang managot sina Pangulong Benjamin Netanyahu ng Israel at dating Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant sa pagpatay, persekusyon at paggamit ng gutom bilang sandata ng gyera. Ang mga ito anya ay bahagi ng sistematikong pag-atake sa populasyong sibilyan ng Gaza. Sinabi ng Israel na napatay ng puwersa nito si Masri, kilala rin bilang Mohammed Deif, sa isang airstrike nitong Hulyo. Subalit hindi ito kinumpirma o itinanggi ng Hamas. Si Deif ay isang Palestinian militant at hepe ng Izz al-Din al-Qassam Brigades, ang military wing ng Hamas. Ayon sa korte, nangangalap pa ito ng sapat na impormasyon ukol sa inulat na pagkamatay ni Deif. Samantala, galit ang tugon ng mga taga-Israel sa desisyon ng ICC. Tinawag nilang kahiya-hiya at hindi kapanipaniwala ang pag-issue nito ng arrest warrants para sa mga leader ng Israel.
First of all, we're not gonna let you guys have your hands on him. Not gonna happen. And second, wait a couple months till Trump gets on board and then we'll see what you have to say.
Ayon naman sa isang residente ng Gaza, huli na ang desisyong ito ng ICC.
هذا قرار متأخر جدا. اليوم نتنياهو بتعامل مع قطاع غزة بكل همجية وإرهاب. قطاع غزة الطفل اللي عمره 2 سنين شارك في 7 أكتوبر ما شاركش في 7 أكتوبر. أنا شاركت في 7 أكتوبر ما شاركناش في. أخذ 7 أكتوبر ذريعة لارتكاب الجرائم في قطاع غزة. قطاع غزة مش إرهابي. أطفال شيوخ نساء.
Samantala, sinabi naman ni European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell na kailangang respetuhin at sundin ang desisyon ng korte.
It is not a political decision. It is a decision of a court of justice, of the International Court of Justice. And the decision of the court has to be respected and implemented.
Tinanggap naman ng abogadong si Yael Vies-Virsman na taga Tel Aviv ang pasya ng korte ukol kay Deif. Si Yael ay kumakatawan sa ilang biktima ng Hamas noong 7 ng Oktubre nang atakihin nito ang Israel.
This decision means that victims from 5 different crime bases of Hamas on the 7th of October, including hostages in Gaza, still, they can be represented there and will represent them, will bring their voice in the case of Mohammed Deif.
Kamakailan, umatras ang puwersang Israel mula sa Jenin matapos ang isang raid na tumagal ng lampas 2 araw. Walang iniwan ito kundi wasak-wasak ng kalye at mga bahay.
هسه لما احنا طلعنا خلص كنا خلص زي مثل كل مره يعني انه بيطلعوا بفوتوا عادي بيعملوش اشي ما كنتش متوقع يحرقوا داري شو ليش لهم يحرقوا داري يعني عشان ايش انا عندي اطفال صغار يعني لا عندي مخربين ولا عندي حدا يعني ولا يجي عندي حدا ولا افوت حدا شو السبب يعني دارنا يعني انا عايش من باب الله شغلي يعني بشتغل شغلي وبطعم البنات انتوا بتعرفي وضعي يعني وضع جوزي برضه نفس الشيء مريض يعني.
Nanindigan naman si Hamas acting Gaza Chief Khalil al-Hayya na walang magaganap na hostages for prisoner swap deal sa Israel hanggat hindi natatapos ang gyera sa teritoryo.
الإشكال أن نتنياهو تحديدا لا يريد الوصول إلى اتفاق لأنهم بالأمس ماذا كان يقول؟ هو يقول في الكنيسة الإسرائيلية بيقول حماس تريد وقف الحرب ونحن لا نريد وقف الحرب نحن نريد استعادة الأسرى وأنا أقول له دون وقف الحرب لا يوجد تبادل أسرى.
Samantala, sa kabila ng mga kaganapang ito, naiipit pa rin sa walang humpay na labanan ang Gazans. Takot, gutom at sugatan. Marjorie Quintos para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Binatikos ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ang inilabas na warrant of arrest ng International Criminal Court laban sa kanya.
זהו יום שחור בתולדות העמים. בית הדין הבינלאומי בהאג, שהוקם כדי להגן על האנושות, הפך היום לאויב האנושות. בית דין מוטה זה החליט להוציא צווי מעצר נגדי ונגד שר הביטחון לשעבר יואב גלנט, בהאשמה מופרכת מן היסוד שאנחנו כביכול ביצענו פשעים נגד האנושות, בעוד שהאמת הפוכה לחלוטין. זוהי פשיטת רגל מוסרית. היא פוגעת בזכותן הטבעית של הדמוקרטיות להגן על עצמן מפני טרור רצחני.
Naniniwala si Netanyahu na politically motivated at walang halaga ang kautusan ng ICC. Nanindigan ng Israeli leader na Israel ang biktima sa gulong nangyayari sa Gaza.
צעד אנטישמי שיש לו מטרה אחת, להרתיע אותנו ממימוש זכותנו הטבעית להגן על עצמנו מול אויבים הקמים עלינו להשמידנו. מאשימים את מדינת ישראל ברצח עם, בשעה שאנחנו פועלים להגן על עצמנו מאויב שמנסה לבצע בנו רצח עם.
Tiniyak din ni Netanyahu na hindi siya magpapaapekto at patuloy na ipagtatanggol ang kanyang mga mamamayan. Pinasalamatan naman ng Hamas ang ICC sa inilabas na warrant of arrest kay Netanyahu na itinuturing nilang hakbang para tuluyang makamit ang hustisya.
אני מבקש לומר לכם, שום החלטה אנטי-ישראלית מקוממת לא תמנע מאיתנו ולא תמנע ממני להמשיך להגן בכל דרך על המדינה שלנו. לא ניכנע ללחצים.
Kinwestiyon naman ng White House ang ginawa ng ICC dahil wala umano itong jurisdiksyon bukod sa minadali ang paglalabas ng warrant. Naniniwala naman si European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell na ang ICC warrants ay hindi politikal at ito ay dapat na irespeto at ipatupad.
So I take note of the decision of the International Criminal Court to issue arrest warrants from Prime Minister Netanyahu, the former Minister of Defense, Mr. Gallant, and the Hamas leaders, Dave. This decision is a binding decision, and all states parties of the court, which include all members of the European Union, are binding to implement this court decision.
Naniniwala ang ICC judges na mayroon silang sapat na ebidensya para gawing responsable si Netanyahu sa pagkasawi ng maraming sibilyan.
Iniulat ni Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán na inimbitahan niya si Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na bumisita sa kanyang bansa matapos maglabas ang International Criminal Court o ICC na arrest warrant laban kay Netanyahu. Naglabas ng ICC ng arrest warrants nitong Huwebes para kay Netanyahu at sa kanyang dating Defense Secretary, pati na rin kay Hamas leader Ibrahim al-Mazri para sa war crimes at crimes against humanity sa Gaza. Binigyan diin ni Orbán na mali ang pag-issue ng arrest warrant kay Netanyahu.
Tehát itt nincsen más választás, hanem szembe kell szegülni ezzel a döntéssel. Úgyhogy én még a mai nap során meg is fogom hívni az izraeliek miniszterelnökét, Netanyahu urat egy magyarországi látogatásra, ahol a meghívásban garantálni fogom a számára, hogyha eljön, akkor a Nemzetközi Büntetőbíróság ítéletének semmilyen hatálya nem lesz Magyarországon, és mi nem fogjuk követni az ebben foglaltakat, kizárólag az izraeli-magyar kapcsolatok minőségéből és állapotából indulunk ki, tehát kellő biztonságban és érdemi tárgyalásokat tud folytatni itt Magyarországon Izrael miniszterelnöke, ha elfogadja a meghívást.
Lesztem Orbán Viktor miniszterelnököt.
Umatla si U.S. hardline Republican Matt Gaetz sa nominasyon ni President-elect Donald Trump bilang Attorney General nito. Si Michelle Bersonila para sa mga detalye.
Tumanggi na si Matt Gaetz sa pagiging pili ni incoming President Donald Trump bilang Attorney General ng bansa. Ani Gaetz, nagiging ikinagagambala na ng transition ni Trump sa White House ang nominasyon niya. Tila hindi rin naman niya makukuha ang buong suporta ng Republicans sa Senado na kailangan upang ikapanalo niya. Ito ay habang dumadaan si Gaetz sa investigasyon dahil sa aligasyon na nakipagtalik ito sa isang 17 taong gulang na batang babae. Itinanggi ni Gaetz ang akusasyon. Sa kanyang X-account, sinabi niya na walang oras na dapat sayangin sa isang mahabang labanan sa Washington kung kaya't inaatras niya ang kanyang pangalan sa nominasyon bilang Attorney General. Inanunsyo ni Trump ang kanyang kontrobersyal na pili para sa pinakamataas na posisyon pambatas sa bansa noong isang linggo. Sinalubong si Gates ng mga katanungan ukol sa kanyang kwalifikasyon at naging mga aksyon. Nitong mga nakaraang taon na imbestigahan na si Gates sa akusasyong sex trafficking violations. Ni minsan ay hindi siya nakasuhan. Michelle Verzonilla para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected on point.
Susunod, 42 katao patay sa isang pag-atake ng mga rebelde sa Pakistan.
Bitcoin malapit nang umabot sa $100,000.
At Gilas Pilipinas, nalusutan na ang New Zealand by 4 points. Mga detalye po ng mga balitang yan at iba pa sa pagbabalik na mata ng Agila International.
We will be talking about an important milestone, bagong batas, Internet Transactions Act, because what we really want is to really grow and protect and build trust in e-commerce.
Ang advocacy namin talaga sa DTI, yung rights ng consumer offline ay same din sa online. So yun din yung ginagawa talaga ng Internet Transactions Act. It ensures na yung karapatan ng consumers ay nandoon so intact.
Online business, an open for business with Cesar Vallejos.
Uy, andyan pala kayo. Gusto nyo bang matuto ng mga nutritional food at easy recipe? Abangan ninyo kami tuwing alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga, Saturday and Sunday. Dito lang yan sa Ito ang Tahanan.
Matinding mga pag-atake ngayon ang nangyayari sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine mula sa kaliwat kanang pagpapalipad ng mga missile. Kasunod ito ng pagpayag ng Pangulo ng US na si Joe Biden na gumamit ng long-range American missile ang Ukraine sa loob ng teritoryo ng Russia. Tila ang walang tigil na digmaan ng Russia at Ukraine ay mapupunta pa sa mas malala at mas pinangangambahang World War III. Ating pag-usapan ang lumalalang sigalot sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine at ang suportang ibinibigay ng mga kaalyado nitong bansa. Nangangamba ngayon ang buong mundo sa posibilidad na sumiklab ang World War III mula sa walang humpay na digmaan sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine.
Если такое решение действительно было сформулировано и доведено до киевского режима, то, конечно же, это качественно новый виток напряженности и качественно новая ситуация с точки зрения вовлеченности Соединенных Штатов в этот конфликт.
Ayon sa Ministry of Defense ng Moscow ay unang ginamit ng Ukraine ang Army Tactical Missile Systems o ATAK-MS sa rehiyon ng Bryansk sa Russia nitong Martes. Dagdag pa nila, 5 sa mga missile ang tumama sa rehiyon ang naging dahilan ng pagkasunog ng isang military facility doon. Kabilang sa mga inaasahan nilang maging target ng missile ng Ukraine ang mga base militar at mga ammunition bunkers. Sa kabilang banda ay matagal nang ginagamit ng Ukraine sa pag-atake ang ATAK-MS para sa mga teritoryong inaangkin ng Russia. Malaking pagbabago ito sa kasalukuyan nang pumayag ang US na gamitin ang ATAK-MS sa mismong lupain ng Russia. Bago ang lahat ay ating alamin kung ano nga bang mayroon sa ATAK-MS at ang epekto nito sa lugar na matatamaan. Ang Army Tactical Missile System o ATAK-MS ay isang surface-to-surface ballistic missile na may kakayahan na tamaan ang target mula sa layong 300 kilometro. Bukod rito ay nasa likod naman ng paggawa ng missile ang defense manufacturer na Lockheed Martin kung saan ito ay maaaring pariparin gamit ang 2 launch systems. Nahahati ang 2 launch systems sa M270 Multiple Launch Rocket System at M142 High Mobility Artillery Rocket System o HIMARS. Sinundan pa ito ng panibagong pag-atake ng Ukraine kung saan hindi bababa sa 10 Storm Shadow missiles ang kanilang pinalipad patungo sa Russia. Tinatawag naman ito bilang Storm Shadow Missile o Scalp na may kakayahang lumipad sa layong 250 kilometro. Binuo ang Storm Shadow missile kung saan ito ay kinikilalang pinakamabisang missile ng United Kingdom para sa mga matitibay na posibilidad ng mga bala at baril. Hindi naman ito ikinutuwa ng Russia kung kaya't isang revised nuclear doctrine ang pinirmahan ni Putin. Nakapaloob sa dokumento na ang Russia ay maaaring gumamit ng nuclear arsenal kasama na ang deklarasyon sa posibleng paggamit nila ng nuclear missile. Dagdag pa rito na ang anumang mga pag-atake sa Russia ng ibang mga bansang suportado ay maaaring magresulta sa isang nuclear strike. Ayon kay Putin ay isang bagong conventional intermediate range missile ang ginamit para sa pag-atake sa syudad ng Dnipro sa Ukraine nitong Huwebes. Anya ang missile na ito ay may pangalan na Oreshnik at ang pag-atake ay bahagi ng kanilang pagganti sa pinalipad na US missile ng Ukraine.
Повторю. Испытания в боевых условиях ракетной системы «Орешник» проводятся нами в ответ на агрессивные действия стран НАТО в отношении России. Вопрос о дальнейшем развертывании ракет средней и меньшей дальности будет решаться нами в зависимости от действий США и их сателлитов. Объекты для поражения в ходе дальнейших испытаний наших новейших ракетных комплексов будут определяться нами, исходя из угроз безопасности Российской Федерации. Мы считаем себя вправе применять наше оружие против военных объектов тех стран, которые позволяют применять свое оружие против наших объектов. А в случае эскалации агрессивных действий будем отвечать также решительно и зеркально. Об этом рекомендую серьезно задуматься и правящим элитам тех стран, которые вынашивают планы использовать против России свои воинские контингенты.
Ilang hakbang na lamang mula sa walang tigil na gantihan ng missile ay maaaring maharap ang mundo sa isang malalang digmaan. Lumalabas na mayroong hawak na 5,000 at 500 na warheads ang Russia laban sa Ukraine. Dagdag pa rito ang nasa 1,700 na mga deployed weapons sa land, sea at air. Matatandaan naman na naging mainit na usapan o isapin sa balita na suportado ng North Korea ang Russia. Ito ay matapos mamataan ang mga sundalo nito sa bansa. Ayon sa Pangulo ng Ukraine na si Volodymyr Zelensky, inaasahan na magpapadala ang North Korea ng 100,000 mga sundalo para sa digmaan. Dagdag pa rito ang nasa 11,000 mga sundalo ng North Korea na nagbabantay ngayon sa border region ng Kursk sa Russia. Kaliwat ka ng palitan ng missile ang nangyayari sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine kasabay ng mas lumalala pang mga pag-atake. Papunta na nga ba ang labanan ng dalawa sa pinangangambahang World War III na maaaring kasangkutan ng iba pang mga bansa? Nariyan pa ang posibleng pagsiklab ng nuclear war kung sakaling gamitin at paliparin ang tinatawag na Intercontinental Ballistic Missile o ICBM. Nakakatakot kung iisipin kung ano ang mga susunod na mangyayari sa gantihan ng missile at sa mga buhay ng mga inosenteng individual na maaapektuhan. Ang bala ang katawan ng 42 katao sa Pakistan matapos pagbabarili ng mga rebelde ang sinasakyang van ng mga biktima. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, sugatan ng ibang 20 matapos madamay sa pamamaril. Batay sa salaysay ng mga nakasaksi, sinalubong ng isang kahinahinalang sasakyan ang van ng mga biktima at saka pinagbabaril ang mga ito. Anila agad na tumakas sa mga salarin matapos ang kanilang pag-atake. Pinaniniwala ang grupo ng rebelde ang may pasimunos sa pamamaril. Sa kasalukuyan, wala pang umaako sa responsibilidad ng pagpatay. Itinuturing na isang terrorist attack ni Pakistan Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi ang naturang pag-atake. Habang kapwa namang kinundena ni Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif at President Asif Ali Zardari ang pamamaril at nangakong paparusahan ang mga taong nasa likod ng pagpatay sa mga inosenteng sibilyan. Samantala, nagresulta po sa stampede ang pagdagsa ng mga kabinataan na gustong sumali sa Territorial Army sa India. Kita sa video ang pagkumpol-kumpol ng malaking bilang ng tao sa lugar. Sa inisyal na ulat ng militar ng India, higit sa 18,000 individual ang bumiyahe patungo sa Pithogarh para umasang mapasali sa hindi bababa sa 500 available positions sa Territorial Army. Tumulong na rin ang local police sa crowd control ng mga aspirants. Hindi naman tinukoy ng mga pulis ang bilang ng nasaktan sa stampede. Ang Territorial Army ay nagsisilbing sangay ng Indian Army na pinapayagan ng isang individual na sumali sa part-time military service. Kung natanggap naman ang isa sa Army ay malaki ang incentives na kanilang matatanggap. Naku, malapit na pong umabot sa $100,000 mark ang halaga ng cryptocurrency na Bitcoin. Ngayong Biyernes, umabot ang halaga ng Bitcoin sa $99,000 mark nito at ito ang pinakamataas na naitala nito mula pa noong November 5 election sa US. Dahil rito, marami ang bumibili ng Bitcoin. Pero sa kabila nito, naniniwala ang mga cryptocurrency analysts na magtutuloy pa ang pagtaas ng halaga ng Bitcoin sa tulong na rin ng Trump trades.
Mga balita ay pinagmalaki ng pipe China na nasa final phase na ang konstruksyon ng East Route Mega Pipeline. Ang higanteng tubong ito ang magsusupply ng natural gas na galing sa Russia papuntang China. Ayon sa CCTV, pagkatapos ng final commissioning phase ng nasabing proyekto, ay magiging fully operational na ang 5,111-kilometer gas pipeline. Kaya nitong suplayan ng natural gas sa mga lugar sa kahabaan ng Beijing, Shanghai at Tianjin. Kaya rin ito mag-supply ng 38 billion cubic meters ng natural gas kada taon, sapat para sa taon-taong pangangailangan ng 130 million urban households.
Nako, naglayag na po ang largest deep-sea drill ship ng China mula sa Guangzhou province. Kilala ang vessel sa pangalan na Mengqiang. May haba ito na 179.8 meters at lapad na 32.8 meters. May displacement naman ito na higit kumulang 42,600 tons. Ayon sa Guangzhou Marine Geological Survey, kayang tumagal ng Mengxiang sa higit sa 120 araw. Ipinagmalaki naman ni Zhang Haibin, ang chief designer ng barko, ang kakayahan ng Mengxiang na tumagal sa mga extreme weather conditions tulad ng super typhoons. Kaya ring magdala ng Mengxiang ng 180 pasahero. Ginagamit ang naturang drill ship para sa oil and gas exploration ng China.
Ginulat ng Gilas Pilipinas ang New Zealand at 93-89 sa second window ng FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers. Ito po ang unang pagkakataong tinalo ng Pilipinas sa New Zealand sa laban na ginanap sa Mall of Asia Arena. Dumaan sa 16-0 run ang Gilas para mabaliktad ang 4 puntos na kalamangan ng Tall Blacks at makuha nila ang 72-60 na kalamangan sa third quarter. Bumida sa panalo ng Gilas si Justin Brownlee na nagtala ng 26 points, 11 rebounds at 4 na assists habang mayroong 19 points, 10 rebounds at 7 assists si Kai Soto. At dahil sa panalo ay nananatiling wala pa ring talo ang Gilas, 3-0 win-loss record sa Group B. Sakaling manalo sila sa Hong Kong sa araw ng Linggo ay tiyak na ang pagpasok nila sa Asia Cup na gaganapin sa Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Tinalo kasi ng Chinese Taipei ang Hong Kong 85-55 na ginanap nitong Huwebes ng gabi.
Dumalo sina Harry Styles, Zayn Malik, Niall Horan at Louis Tomlinson sa funeral service ni Liam Payne. Maraming fans ang nalungkot dahil hindi ito ang reunion na kanilang inaasahan. Si Patricia Bautista para sa detalye.
This is not the reunion we wanted. Ito ang malungkot na pahayag ng maraming fans ng One Direction o 1D matapos pumunta ni Harry Styles, Zayn Malik, Niall Horan at Louis Tomlinson sa funeral service ni Liam Payne. Nagpasya ang pamilya at kaanak ni Liam na gawing pribado ang nasabing funeral service na dinaluhan ng ilang sikat na British personality. Kabilang narito sina Simon Cowell, Cheryl Ann Tweedy, Adrian Childs at James Corden. Ayon sa ilang ulat, sikat man si Liam sa buong mundo dahil siya ay miyembro ng One Direction, pero para sa kanyang pamilya, lalo na sa kanyang mga magulang, siya ay normal na tao lamang. Sumikat ang One Direction noong taong 2010 at sa loob ng maraming taon ay nag-iisa sa mga best-selling boy bands of all time. Nakagawa sila ng 5 albums pero nagpa siyang mag-indefinite hiatus noong taong 2016 at nag-focus sa kanilang mga individual projects. May mga balitang lumabas ngayong taon na mag-reunion sana sa isang concert ang 5 miyembro ng One Direction. Hindi ito kinumpirma ng 1D management pero hindi na ito mangyayari pang muli dahil sa pagkamatay ni Liam Payne. Namatay si Liam noong October 16 sa edad na 31, nahulog sa balkonahe ng tinuluyan ng hotel sa Buenos Aires.
Grew up listening to One Direction, like that was my favourite band ever. I think that was every girl's band. Like I had cups, I had blankets of One Direction. I was such a big 1D girl, like I loved them so much and like yeah, it was so sad, yeah.
I thought it was incredibly sad for his child, basically, and I think that what those boys, I think the fame at such a young age is a very, very difficult thing, and I think that those boys have managed it in different ways, and so I thought it was very, very sad, and I was thinking of his ex-partners who have had a very difficult time recently, and of his child.
Patricia Bautista, London, United Kingdom, para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
nakakalungkot naman talaga yung nangyari.
Marami talaga nalulungkot dyan.
Tsaka grabing sikat naman kasi ng 1D, One Direction. Kaya nakakalungkot na malagasan na sila this early matanggalan na agad sila ng isang member.
Yes, ang nalungkot dyan talaga yung panganay ko na si Chrissy. Kasi nanood pa kami talaga ng 1D concert dati, kahit na umuulan-ulan noon. So, nakakalungkot na balita yan. Pero, ayan, lahat naman daw ng nangyayari ay may dahilan, may kadahilanan. At sana, siguro magsilbi itong lesson din sa mga naiwang members din na mas pumili ng maayos siguro na way of lifestyle. Ayan.
Tsaka para rin sa atin lahat na nandito pa, syempre tuloy ang buhay at syempre tingin lang tayo dun sa malayong hinaharap with, diba, with heart and
But ang maganda naman kay Liam, diba, talagang he left a legacy. Marami siyang legions of fans na naiwan. Ayan. At yung mga music niya, at alang balita ko nga, napakabait daw niyang tao talaga.
That's good
so
to
we
know.
have to remember the departed in their fondest memories, diba?
Tama.
At ito, gagawa naman tayo ng fond memories dahil akalain mo, Nina, weekend na naman.
Ayun, yun ang
Friday na.
Tama. At syempre dahil weekend po ngayon ay bukas, huwag niyo pong kalimutang panoorin ang mga ibang palabas ng Net25. Nako, isang mahabang linya yan. Tulad ng Ito ang Tahanan. At saka nandyan din ang Open for Business. At saka Rikki, di ba may sasabihin ka, meron tayong babatiin
Oo, hindi. Panoorin din nila Art Academy.
Ay, of course.
Alam mo, nanonood din ako niyan. Ang panibagong episode ng Corina Interviews. Maganda yata interview niya. At ang pilot episode, naku, 5 seasons na ang Goodwill.
Tumagal,
At ito nga, congratulations din sa team ng Responde at ang ating kasamahan dito na si Alex Santos. Dahil tomorrow din from 6 to 7 p.m. ang kanilang 3rd anniversary.
Akalain mo, 3 taon na, just like that. Parang hinihila ang panahon, ano?
Ayan, bukas, star-studded. Nandyan si Camille Villar. Nandyan din si David Chua. Di ba? Tsaka siyempre si Corina, nag-iisa. At syempre, ito ang tahanan ng ating mga kaibigan dyan. At of course, ang award-winning na presidente ng Net25. Walang iba kundi si Cesar Vallejos para sa Open for Business.
Ayun, lagi po ninyong tatandaan yan po ang mga shows na inyo pong susuportahan. Dito lang yan sa Net25.
Huwag niyo po kami masyado mamimiss, dahil sa Lunes, nandito po ulit kami, Nina, para maghatid sa inyo ng balita at sa amang dako yan ng mundo. Muli ako po si Rikki. Happy weekend, everybody.
Ako si Nina Rikki Alagao Flores. Happy weekend po sa inyong lahat. Ngiti tayo. Ito po ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta po tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thanks, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Severe storms are battering both U.S. coasts tonight with an atmospheric river system pounding the west coasts and much-needed precipitation reaching the drought-stricken northeast.
I guess the concern is really, starting this early, how long this goes on. If this goes on all winter long, we could have serious problems.
In Washington, President-elect Trump has named Pam Bondi as his Attorney General nominee following Matt Gaetz's withdrawal. At the International Criminal Court's arrest warnings for Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant have drawn sharp criticism from both Israel and the U.S., with President Biden calling the move outrageous. And Russia has confirmed using a new hypersonic missile on Ukraine, calling it a warning to Western powers.
It is not Russia, but the United States who have destroyed the system of international security. And they are trying to preserve their hegemony and stoking a global conflict.
In medical history, New York surgeons have completed the world's first fully robotic double lung transplant.
We are here in Sigea for the Care for Humanity program of the members of the Iglesia de Cristo or Church of Christ here in the Kingdom of Bahrain.
And the news starts now. And tonight, stormy weather is impacting tens of millions of Americans from coast to coast. Northern California and the Pacific Northwest are facing no break from the harsh conditions, while the drought-hit Northeast is receiving much-needed rain and snow. And take a look at this. Satellite imagery today revealed a massive atmospheric river, a fierce storm system sweeping over the west coast, bringing heavy rain, snow, and strong winds. The aftermath includes widespread power outages, flooded streets, and gridlocked highways throughout Northern California. Take a look.
So around 4:15, I get home, tree falls down, I run over, help my friends, my neighbor's wife get out of the house, and it just crashed through the front of the house, crashed through the kitchen, and it broke the whole ridge beam.
But what exactly is an atmospheric river?
Atmospheric rivers are pretty much, you can think of it as like a river in the sky. So a river transports, as we know, a river transports a lot of water. And so atmospheric rivers are essentially that, just up in the sky. They're relatively long, narrow regions with significant water vapor that helps to transport moisture from the tropical areas into the mid-latitudes, which is where the United States is located. They're not all that unusual of a weather system, but it's as this long fetch of moisture interacts with land features such as the western United States topography that this water vapor gets released in the form of rain or snow.
These storms can rapidly intensify into what meteorologists call bomb cyclones, when cold polar air collides with warm tropical air in less than 24 hours. According to the National Weather Service Prediction Center, the rain won't ease until Saturday. In Sonoma County, residents are already seeing substantial damage to vineyards and roads.
Ordinarily, the big storms would come in after the New Year, so it's really unusual for it to be here in November or at the end of November. So we're all sort of adjusting to this side of the year.
I guess the concern is really, starting this early, how long this goes on. If this goes on all winter long, we could have serious problems throughout the state and the county.
And climate change could make these storms even more severe.
So scientific research has shown that the climate is warming and average monthly to yearly temperatures are increasing. Now, while it's difficult to say exactly how this might impact atmospheric rivers specifically, certainly we do know that warmer air is capable of holding more water vapor. And so it's possible that a warming climate could result in stronger and more extreme weather. Most notably, Northern California is seeing the heaviest impacts. Some locations have already, over the past day or two, picked up as much as 6 to 12 inches of rain, and they could see another 3 to 6 isolated 10 inches before all is said and done.
President-elect Donald Trump has announced his new pick for Attorney General, selecting Florida's former Attorney General, Pam Bondi. And this comes after his initial choice, Matt Gaetz, made a surprising announcement today, withdrawing his name from consideration. Bondi served as the top law enforcement officer of the country's third most populous state from 2011 to 2019, and on Trump's opioid drug abuse commission during his first administration. Most recently, Bondi helped lead the legal arm of the America First Policy Institute, a right-leaning think tank whose personnel has worked closely with Trump's campaign to help share policy for his incoming administration. Her resume contrasts with that of Gaetz, who has little of the traditional experience expected of an attorney general. Bondi would likely face less opposition from senators involved in the confirmation process compared with Gaetz. DJ Evangelista has more.
Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his name as Donald Trump's attorney general pick.
He says his nomination is becoming a distraction to President-elect Trump's transition into the White House. Full support from Senate Republicans seemed unlikely, which he needed to win the position.
And there's a sense of relief about it, of course. I think he did a pretty noble thing, frankly, honorable thing by getting out himself.
This is the president's cabinet. He's got to choose people who he has confidence in and who are going to be able to deliver, he believes, on his agenda. So he's decided that's not Matt Gaetz.
The president nominated somebody, they chose to not go forward, now he'll nominate somebody else. You know, all this interest about Republican nominees, I understand it, but where were most of y'all at when the Democrats were doing this?
This as Gaetz is being investigated for allegations of having sex with a 17-year-old girl. He has denied wrongdoing. Gaetz posted on social media platform X saying, "There's no time to waste on needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I'll be withdrawing my name from consideration to serve as Attorney General." Trump announced his controversial pick for the country's top law enforcement official only last week. Gaetz has faced questions over his qualifications and his past conduct. In recent years, he has been investigated but never charged for potential sex trafficking violations. DJ Evangelista for Net25 World News.
President-elect Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has denied sexual assault allegations outlined in a 2017 complaint filed by a woman in California. Hegseth, a former Fox News host, addressed the accusations while meeting with Republican senators on Capitol Hill to garner support for his nomination.
Did you sexually assault a woman in Monterey, California? I have, as far as the media is concerned, I'll keep this very simple. The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you very much.
The sexual assault complaint was filed in California in 2017, but Hegseth has consistently denied the allegations. According to police reports, he told authorities at the time that any contact between him and the woman was always consensual. The case was referred to the Monterey County District Attorney's Office, but charges were not filed due to insufficient evidence to meet the legal standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The police report, which was released on Wednesday, refers to the complainant as Jane Doe, and the woman's identity remains undisclosed. The report came to light following requests from media outlets for details regarding the case, which emerged after Hegseth was named Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense. Hegseth, 44, is still awaiting Senate confirmation for the post. He spent the morning meeting with Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and several senators. Trump has publicly supported Hegseth, calling the accusations false and praising him as a highly respected combat veteran who will honorably serve our country if confirmed. President Vladimir Putin announced Russia's latest military action, a hypersonic missile strike that has sparked global concern. Putin stated that the strike was carried out in response to the deployment of American and British long-range weapons. Take a look. A dramatic escalation in Ukraine tonight. President Putin claims Moscow has struck back with new ballistic missiles, while Ukraine and Western allies trade accusations over an increasingly dangerous conflict.
As a response to the use of US and UK manufactured weapons, the Russian forces have carried out a combined strike on one of the military-industrial facilities in Ukraine. And this included the test of a novel intermediate-range Russian missile system. A ballistic missile with a non-nuclear hypersonic payload was used.
Now, in this case, using a very long-range missile against a very close target is used as messaging by Russia towards the West. In this case, the official reason that's been put out is the Russian government does not like the fact that Western-supplied air-launched cruise missiles, in this case Storm Shadows, were used into Russian territory. Note that these missiles are much shorter in range than the hundreds of missiles that Russia has been firing into Ukraine. So in general, it's It's not any different than what Russia's already been doing in a mirrored sense. However, Russia has taken particular anxiety to use of Western missiles into Russian territory. But what we can say for sure is that it has what are called multiple reentry vehicles, where one missile releases multiple smaller warheads that impact very close to each other on the ground.
On the ground, the impact is real. In Dnipro, civilian infrastructure bears the brunt of this escalation.
Technical buildings were damaged in our compound. In the rehabilitation center building, around 50 windows were damaged. Thank God nobody was injured.
Russia points finger at the West.
It is not Russia, but the United States who have destroyed the system of international security. And they are trying to preserve their hegemony and stoking a global conflict. We have always preferred, and we still prefer, to resolve our disagreements using peaceful means, but we are prepared for any scenario. And if anyone has any doubts, they shouldn't. There will always be a response.
And the Pentagon quickly responded.
Russia chose to escalate this war by introducing DPRK forces into the battlefield and into the fight. And so what we are doing is, as we have been from the very beginning, is ensuring that Ukraine has what it needs. So you're going to see us continue to support Ukraine with different presidential drawdown packages.
In Moscow, civilians are processing the news of Ukraine's newly authorized ability to strike Russian territory.
Думаю, ему самому на этом белом свете недолго осталось. Решил всех за собой утянуть, чтобы там ему не скучно, наверное, было. Что тут еще можно подумать?
Я в Москву переехала относительно недавно по учебе. До этого я жила в Севастополе. И это очень страшно. Тут не чувствуется, там страшно. Поэтому, конечно, тревожно.
But some experts see a darker picture emerging.
This is too little and too late. Ukraine is on a losing trajectory, and this seems very much like a guilt trip on the part of the outgoing democratic administration, who know they have not done enough, who have been overly cautious, and their intention was always not for Ukraine to win the war, but just to keep them in the war. That does seem extraordinarily cruel, but their strategic objective was not to win, but to ensure that it doesn't conflagrate into a wider war and escalate into something global and something they were involved in themselves.
President Putin's warning comes with a calculated twist. While asserting Russia's right to use ballistic missiles against Ukrainian military targets, he's making an unusual promise.
When choosing measures to be used in response, such as the use of systems that was tested recently in Ukraine, will certainly include warnings to civilians to clear the zones that will be targeted. And we will certainly do this in a transparent fashion. And we do not have any fears that it will reduce the effectiveness of those systems, because there is no way to counteract a missile that flies at 10 Mach, which is 2.5 to 3 kilometers per second. Existing anti-missile systems and the anti-missile systems deployed by the United States and Europe cannot intercept such missiles. It is impossible.
But here's the breaking development. The Pentagon has just confirmed what many suspected.
In terms of notifications to the United States was pre-notified briefly before the launch through nuclear risk reduction channels.
Meanwhile, a shadowy incident has plunged the Baltic Sea into the spotlight. Two vital undersea cables, crucial for Europe's internet and data connectivity, were mysteriously severed, and authorities suspect sabotage, and attention has turned to a Chinese cargo ship.
Ein ganz klares Zeichen, dass hier etwas im Gange ist. Niemand glaubt, dass diese Kabel aus Versehen durchtrennt worden sind, und ich mag auch nicht an Versionen glauben, dass das Anker waren, die zufällig über diesen Kabeln, wie soll ich sagen, Schaden angerichtet haben. Von daher müssen wir konstatieren, ohne konkret zu wissen, von wem es kommt, dass es sich um eine hybride Aktion handelt. Und wir müssen auch davon ausgehen, ohne es schon zu wissen, versteht sich, dass es sich um Sabotage handelt.
The Swedish and Finnish authorities are leading the investigation, and while they've been cautious about pointing fingers, the presence of the Chinese ship near the incident sites has raised eyebrows.
I forhold til sagen omkring de beskadigede datakabler i Østersøen, der vil jeg gerne gøre klart, at det ser jeg selvfølgelig på med stor alvor, ikke mindst i lyset af den aktuelle udenrigs- og sikkerhedspolitiske situation. Jeg noterer mig også, at man fra både tysk og svensk side offentligt har sagt, at man har mistanke om, at der kan være tale om sabotage. Og så frem det tilfældet er det selvsagt meget bekymrende. Jeg kan også sige, at de relevante danske myndigheder følger udviklingen tæt.
The damaged cables are critical infrastructure connecting countries like Finland, Germany, Sweden, and Lithuania. Repairing them will take weeks, potentially disrupting vital communications and internet services. While China has denied any involvement, the incident has heightened tensions in the region.
我目前不掌握你提到的中国船只的具体的情况，建议向中方的主管部门询问。我愿再次重申，中国在海底基础设施保护问题上的立场是一贯的、明确的。我们愿依据国际法同有关方保持沟通，共同维护国际海底基础设施安全。同时，我们也希望中国船只的正常航行权利和合法权益得到有效保护。
The Baltic Sea, a strategic waterway, has become a focal point of geopolitical intrigue, and the sabotage of these cables underscores the vulnerability of critical infrastructure to potential attacks. Arrest warrants have been issued by the International Criminal Court for Israel's Prime Minister and his former defense minister. And the court has also issued a warrant for Hamas leader Ibrahim al-Mazri. The three are accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
Both Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense chief Yoav Gallant have been accused of war crimes. Netanyahu calls the allegations false, and he suggests the charges have been brought by people who have their own agenda.
The decision to issue an arrest warrant against me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and our former defense minister, was made by a rogue prosecutor who's trying to extricate himself from sexual harassment charges, and by biased judges who are motivated by anti-Semitic sentiments against the one and only Jewish state.
Netanyahu adds that no anti-Israel decision in The Hague will prevent Israel from defending its citizens. Gallant has not commented on the warrants. Israel's biggest ally, the United States, has rejected the court's decision. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says the U.S. has been clear that the court does not have jurisdiction over this matter.
We remain deeply concerned by the prosecutor's rush to seek arrest warrants and the troubling process errors that led to this decision.
While Washington does not support the court's move, the Palestinian ambassador to the Netherlands has a different view. Amar Hijazi says the arrest warrants show that the course of justice is being rectified.
We believe that it is a proof that justice and the long arm of justice will reach anyone who violates the norms that humanity decided that cannot be violated, especially the most egregious atrocities like war crimes and crimes against humanity.
Back in Israel, reaction on the street in Jerusalem shows little support for the International Court.
Very much against it. Why? Because it means that we as Jews and the State of Israel has no right to defend themselves against all these attacks and evil things that are being done against us, and they are defending us against that.
I first heard it, I said, my God, where did they get the idea of arresting the Prime Minister of the State of Israel and his Chief of Staff? How, when we are fighting for our survival and they don't even mention the attack that we suffered on the 7th of October.
What the ICC and the Western world doing right now is giving back wind to terror and giving an organization like Hamas hope that they can win this fight.
The court does not have its own police force to carry out the arrests. Instead, it relies on its 124 member states for that. with only limited diplomatic means to force them if they don't want to. But the warrants will limit Netanyahu's travel destinations if he wants to avoid arrest. Thomas I. Likeness, Net 25 World News.
And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back.
Dahil walang hinto ang balita.
Financial straits.
Mata ng Agila Weekend tuwing Sabado, alas 4 ng hapon. Ito ang Net 25. Matatag, matapag, matapak.
Let's net together sa Net 25. Sa Net 25.
U.S. prosecutors have indicted Indian billionaire Gautam Adani, accusing him of orchestrating a $265 million bribery scheme aimed at boosting his solar energy business.
U.S. prosecutors indicted Indian billionaire Gautam Adani as part of what they called the Corrupt Solar Project. Adani is India's second richest person, who helms a massive conglomerate spanning ports and power supplies. Prosecutors have accused him of orchestrating a $265 million bribery scheme, paying off Indian government officials for contracts boosting his solar energy business. Adani Group has denied the allegations as baseless. Starting in 2021, Adani and his firm were able to raise about $3 billion in loans and bonds.
The fundamentals of our company are very strong.
Of that amount, prosecutors say Adani raised $175 million from American investors. Those investors were presented with statements about the firm's anti-corruption and anti-bribery practices. But prosecutors said those statements were false and misleading, as they allege that Adani, his nephew, and 6 others in 2020 knowingly conspired to bribe officials to help win deals from India's government-run energy firm to build solar plants. Prosecutors said the Adanis continued to mislead investors even after they became aware of the U.S. investigation last year. U.S. authorities described a meeting in 2022 between executives from Adani and another firm involved with the scheme. Prosecutors said Gautam Adani detailed aspects of the bribery, including steps he personally took to offer money to government officials. Executives from the other firm also prepared an analysis using Excel and PowerPoint to summarize the different ways in which it could repay an Adani subsidiary for the bribes it had paid to benefit both companies. In March 2023, FBI agents approached Adani's nephew with details of the ongoing investigation into the group. They took custody of his electronic devices and served him with a search warrant and grand jury subpoena. The search warrant identified offenses, individuals, and entities under investigation by the U.S. for violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, securities fraud, and wire fraud. Adani Group said in a statement it would seek, quote, all possible legal recourse. Indian lawyers said there was a possibility the matter could be settled between the Indian tycoon and U.S. authorities, and the billionaire can also seek a dismissal of the indictment. But if any of the executives are found guilty of the charges, they would have to forfeit any property or proceeds derived directly or indirectly as a result of the bribery scheme.
A medical milestone has been achieved at NYU Langone Health Center in New York City. Surgeons there have successfully performed the world's first fully robotic double lung transplant. The groundbreaking procedure was carried out on 57-year-old Cheryl Mercar, who suffered from severe chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. The minimally invasive technique, aided by a sophisticated robotic system, significantly reduces surgical trauma, leading to faster recovery times and improved patient outcomes.
Normal transplant, you do either get a very big incision on both sides of your chest called thoracotomies, or you get just a very big one across your chest where we break your breastbone, and it's called a clamshell. And in either case, you have to put in these big retractors that spread your ribs apart. They push on your nerves, and it's just a very big open incision. And so pain tends to be a decent problem for patients afterwards. In terms of the robotic transplant, instead of something that is probably 8 inches in terms of an incision, we can get it down to a 2-inch incision. And so, and then we put the small ports in for the robot. So there's significantly less trauma on the chest wall.
A couple days later, Cheryl, we were able to do
both lungs robotically. You were the first in the world. And when you hear something like that, I don't know how to describe that.
We've made lots of advances with robotic technology for lung cancer surgery, lots of other thoracic surgery, and even heart surgery. And so this is really the first major step towards moving it towards lung transplantation. And the benefits are really significantly smaller incisions, so better healing for the patient and less postoperative pain.
Merkar, a former EMT and karate enthusiast, is already on the road to recovery just days after the surgery. And finally, in our news, the Iglesia Ni Cristo launched an outreach activity for the overseas Filipino workers of the Kingdom of Bahrain. Our correspondent, Lorlin Kalimlim, files this report. Lorlin.
We are here in Agila for the Care for Humanity program of the members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Here in the Kingdom of Bahrain, the Iglesia Ni Cristo organization have launched Care for Humanity to OFWs who are household workers and those who just lost their jobs due to various reasons. Members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo are conducting Care for Humanity program anywhere in the world whenever needs arise, due to several issues like severe disasters, unavoidable calamities, or heavy challenges of life.
Nagpapasalamat po ako sa lingap ng mamamayan ng Iglesia Ni Cristo dito sa Manama District. Malaking tulong po ito para sa pang-araw-araw.
Sa ngayon po na wala po akong work, nagtatry pa rin naman po ako na maghanap ng iba. Siyempre, hindi naman po tayo nawawala ng pag-asa. Kaya try and try lang naman po. Sa linga po na naigawa ngayon, ako po ay nagpapasalamat sa inyong lahat dahil napakalaking tulong po ito para sa amin.
Natutuwa po ako sa mga gawain po ng iglesia. Hopefully po maging part po ako ng family ng iglesia.
Ang masasabi ko bilang Iglesia ni Cristo sa programa ng Iglesia ni Cristo Lalikap ng Mamamayan ay masaya sapagkat nakakatulong tayo sa mga kabayan natin.
Inulunsad ng ating tagapamahalang pangkalahatan na Care for Humanity ay makatulong po sa atin pong mga kababayan, lalo na po ang mga kababayan natin na OFW na maaaring sila po ay kinakapos ng pangangailangan. At marami po sa kanila ay malayo po sa kanilang mga mahal sa buhay. Kami po ay lubos na nagpapasalamat sa atin pong pinakamamahal na tagapamahalang pangkalahatan, ang kapatid na Eduardo B. Manalo, sapagkat naglulunsad po sila ng ganito pong aktibidad na totoong kapakipakinabang at nakatutulong po sa atin pong mga kababayan. At ito po ay lalo pong nagbunga ng ikasisigla po, hindi lamang po sa atin pong mga kapatid, kundi maging sa atin pong kababayan dito po sa bansang Bahrain, na lalo pa po nilang maramdaman yung pag-ibig po at pagmamahal po ng kapatiran sa loob po ng iglesia.
Anywhere in the world, wherever there is a Church of Christ, there is Care for Humanity, a true church that genuinely shares love, hope, and uplift the community spirit of brotherhood. There might be days of struggle, but there is a day of relief. Hence, whenever you possibly could, help those who are in need. Reporting from Bahrain, this is your news correspondent, Lorlin Kalimlim.
And for the whole Mata ng Agila team, this is Alma Angeles reminding you that kindness knows no boundaries. Thank you for keeping me company tonight. We'll see you back tomorrow. Have a great weekend. Good night.